Kia ora whanau. Before I start, I say karakia, a prayer. Heavenly Father, for this blissful day, pray for the Regulation Standards Bill Act, that the tangata whenua, the people of the land and the Māori, can have rights to land according to the Te Tiriti Waitangi, the Te Tiriti. Amen. Kia ora whanau. So today I'll be reading from the PSA, the Regulation Standards Bill submission on New Zealand Parliament page on the Regulatory Law Legislation Standards Parliament website has crashed. You gotta take time as the system has crashed, but I'll explain or illustrate the campaigns to submit against the Regulatory Standards Bill. So let's commence. The Regulatory Standards Bill is designed to put profit ahead of people, erase Te Tiriti Waitangi, and make effective provision of public and community services incredibly difficult. You might have heard of some talk recently about the Regulatory Standards Bill, up to international law. The ACT Party are pushing. The same sounds dry and boring, but its contents are dangerous for public servants, state sector, and government, health, and community workers. Please forgive me, as I have a cold, the flu. That's why PSA members are encouraged to make individual submissions against the bill. Send your submission now before the close at 1 p.m. on Monday, 23rd of June, which is on tomorrow, which is why the system has crashed. So here's what it does that affects PSA members. It erases Te Tiriti Waitangi from lawmaking. It puts individual property and corporate rights over what's good for people and the planet. For almost all laws governing all public and community services. It limits ability for laws regulations to provide targeted support for women, disabled people, Māori, Pacific people, migrants, people of refugee backgrounds, tamariki, or any marginalised group. It enshrines ACT Party values into future lawmaking, even though only 8% of people in Aotearoa voted for them. It makes the government much less likely to act on climate change, public health, reducing poverty, and other issues important to Aotearoa. There are more to it. Keep reading for a more detailed explanation of the points. We now have PSA members concerned about the impact this bill will have on our mahi and communities. Make a submission now on the public website. See the Parliament website. Make submission, but beware the website has crashed. It's overloaded.
Yep.
Marvin, go away. Go away. One of the best things we can do is to make a submission. Here's how. We know making submissions is powerful because we've done it before. More than 300,000 people submitted on the treaty principles. 90% of us opposed. It's time to flex that submission muscle again and follow these steps. 1 is open the page on the Parliament website. 2 is enter your details and remember your name and what you write will be published online. Sorry, my nephew was just going to clean my room. Write your submission in the 2 boxes on the screen. Remember to tell your kids to do the chores as well. I'll upload it as a document. Check out the ideas to include before and what to write. Step 4, write and submit, and you're done. Submission can be as long, as short as you want. Most of the things included is this. I oppose the Regulatory Standards Bill. It should be thrown out. I don't want an amended version of the bill passed. Those statements alone are enough, but if you want to include more, here's some ideas. The Regulatory Standards Bill breaches Te Tiriti Waitangi and erases it from lawmaking. The Regulatory Standards Bill limits the ability of public, community, and health services to deliver effectively for communities, particularly Māori, Pacific, disabled people, women, and more marginalised groups. The Regulatory Standards Bill puts individual property and corporate rights over the collective good of people and planet. The Regulatory Standards Bill will funnel public funds into corporations as compensation when government makes laws in the interest of people and the environment. Check out my Instagram friend. Check out the excellent source from Tanya Waikato or Tanya Waikato the Law. She's my friend on Instagram. She lays out 50 things you could say in your submission. The PSA will make a formal submission. It's important to have what you say individuals too. So, can I have a submission as I work in public, community health services, local government, or state sector? People working in community and public services have the same rights as others submit to said committees. You can do it without compromising your employment obligations. The main things to remember are do this in your own time. Don't suggest that representing or speaking for your employer. Don't use information you only have access to because of your job. Public information is fine to use. Member submissions are public documents. They get published on the Parliament website, including who the submission is from. Don't include personal details in submission. Example, contact details if you don't want them to be published. If you choose to present your submission orally, do this in your own time and let your manager know. They should support your right to do this. If you work directly on the bill or work to advise ministers on matters related to the bill, you should not submit as an individual. So let's continue. Thus fourth, background to the Regulatory Standards Bill. Emeritus Professor John Kelsey describes the objective of the Regulatory Standards Bill as the binding government for the neoliberal logic of economic freedom. The ACT Party has already tried to pass legislation 3 times, failing because of concern of the impact of the Te Tiriti Waitangi, criticism for Treasury, lawyers and people in business. They oppose the ACT Party's values because of the set principles of all the laws they measured against, including the rule of law, liberties, taking of property, taxing fees and levies, rules of courts, and good lawmaking. It basically puts these principles above everything else, including Te Tiriti Waitangi, in the Bills of Rights. It places individual and corporate rights of what good for people on the planet by introducing the principle of companies property is impaired should be compensated about barriers in the way of any legislation. It will protect communities of the environment at the expense of business profits. It makes it much less likely for the government to introduce things like environmental regulations that protect us and the right to reduce corporate profits. For example, it would prevent the government from making new regulations around alcohol and tobacco advertising, and companies in the industries could claim that they deserve compensation. The bill will limit the ability of any legislation that enables public service to target support funding of services to specific groups, including disabled people, people from refugee backgrounds, and Māori. Sends a message to officials working on legislative proposals that mean the principle of equal application of the law means not only targeting services to disadvantaged groups that need them most, like funding Pacific Ramper health services. Melanie Nelson describes the bill as hostile to discretion, particularly the kind that allows public service professionals or local authorities to apply judgment to specific contexts. This includes situations like resource consent should take into account the local ecosystem, treaty-based decision-making. If you would like to learn more, check out the resources below. You check it on the PSA webcast site, just type in Regulatory Standards Bill and the PSA, as other websites are crashed. So we have the Waitangi Tribunal Interim Regulatory Standards Bill Urgent Inquiry Report. 50 submissions opposing the Regulatory Standards Bill from Tanya Waikato lawyer, which I'll read. 50 submissions opposing the Regulatory Standards Bill, you can copy and paste. Primary submissions must include this one. I oppose the Regulatory Standards Bill. This is what you have to write when you submit in the ballot. So primary submission must include this one. I suppose the Regulatory Standards Bill being passed. Kill the bill. Optional submissions and subject groups, pick as you like. Objections based on Te Tiriti Waitangi. So 2. This is what you state or say. The Regulatory Standards Bill fundamentally breaches Te Tiriti Waitangi. 3. The Regulatory Standards Bill undermines treaty principles of tino rangatingaratanga and partnership. 4. Passing the Regulatory Standards Bill will breach the Crown's obligations to Māori under Te Tiriti. 5. The consultation process in the Regulatory Standards Bill breaches Te Tiriti. 6. The Regulatory Standards Bill will ignore historical injustice against Māori. 7. The Regulatory Standards Bill neglects Māori perspectives and lawmaking practices. 8. Excluding Māori from regulatory decision-making and undermines the principle of partnership enshrined in Te Tiriti. 9. The Regulatory Standards Bill approach to lawmaking marginalised Māori voices and perspectives. I'll type all these 50 voices of statements in the comments below my post on Facebook and on YouTube. The Resistance Bills will erode Māori rights, self-determination, cultural preservation. The Resistance Bills prevents the revitalization of Te Reo Māori. The Resistance Bill approach regulations perpetuate systematic racism and discrimination against Māori. The Regulatory Standards Bill will undermine the role of Māori governance, structures and institutions. The Regulatory Standards Bill will undermine the principles of equity, justice for the Māori. The Regulatory Standards Bill leads to the erosion of Māori language rights and cultural practices. The Regulatory Standards Bill approach to reputation of perpetuate colonial structures of power, control of Māori communities. 18. The Regulatory Standards Bill undermine the principle of active protection enshrined in Te Tiriti, minorities and social equity. 19. The Regulatory Standards Bill will negatively impact women's rights, creating a fight for pay equity. 20. The Regulatory Standards Bill will negatively impact Pacifica whānau, targeted funding that addresses existing inequities. 21. The Regulatory Standards Bill will negatively impact the same with whānau and targeted under the address existing equities. 22. The Regulatory Standards Bill will negatively impact whānau who are struggling economically and make accessing help more difficult. 23. The Māori Standards Bill prioritizes individual properties, rights of collective social responsibilities will have a negative effect on society. 24. The Regulatory Standards Bill will disproportionately benefit wealthy individuals, corporations, exacerbating social disparities. 25. The Regulatory Standards Bill focus on deregulation and reduce protections of vulnerable communities and workers' rights. 26. The Regulatory Standards Bill will diminish safeguards for minority groups, especially in employment and health and safety. 27. The Regulatory Standards Bill up the wires. 27. The Regulatory Standards Bill will lead to reduced accountability for actions that adversely affect marginalised populations, such as cutting funding for disabled communities and minorities. I'll paste it under my comment on Facebook. The Regulatory Standards Bill emphasizes on individual liberties, complex with the need for collective social protections. 29. The Regulatory Standards Bill, which is copy and paste and posted on your statement. The Regulatory Standards Bill will weaken anti-discrimination and hinder progress towards social equity. The Regulatory Standards Bill will erode hard-won gains, social justice, human rights protections. 31. The Regulatory Standards Bill will set back efforts to create a more inclusive and equitable society. Environment concerns. The Regulatory Standards Bill will weaken environmental protections. The Regulatory Standards Bill will protect our unique ecosystems. 34. The Regulatory Standards Bill will enable projects harmful to biodiversity conservation efforts. 35. The Regulatory Standards Bill will facilitate the exploitation of natural resources, expense of environmental sustainability. 36. The Regulatory Standards Bill will weaken environmental protections and accelerate the loss of endangered species. 37. The Regulatory Standards Bill will undermine public participation, environmental decision making. 38. The Regulatory Standards Bill will pave the way for development in regard to climate change and considerations. 39. The Regulatory Standards Bill will increase the risk of environmental degradation. 40. The Regulatory Standards Bill will accelerate the privatization of government activities that will weaken environmental protections. 41. The Regulatory Standards Bill focuses on deregulation that compromise long-term environmental health. And the 40s, democratic process and accountability. The Regulatory Standards Bill will centralize power in the hands of David Seymour, the Minister of Regulation and Regulatory Standards Board, reducing democratic accountability. 43. The Regulatory Standards Bill consultation documents undermine democratic participation lawmaking by failing to disclose the fundamental constitutional impacts of the bill. 44. The Regulatory Standards Bill will diminish the role of Parliament, act as a restraint on its power. 45. The Regulatory Standards Bill will erode checks and balances between the branches of government, essential for functioning democracy. 46. The Regulatory Standards Bill will cause the fundamental constitution shift by naming the period of treaty provisions of existing laws. 47. The Regulatory Standards Bill will reduce the ability of minorities to participate in democratic processes by citing assessment framework against them. The Regulatory Standards Bill will diminish significant threat of within New Zealand's legal and political framework. The Regulatory Standards Bill will enshrine the ex-party principles, constitutional fabric without the law. And 50. The Regulatory Standards Bill will make David Sewell the most powerful position in the world. So, kill the bill, say no to David Seymour, vote Te Pāti Māori, vote Greens and vote Labour. To Shane Henderson and Mr. Peters, sway to Labour, sway to Chris Hipkins, jobs, help, homes, vote Labour. Naka level, extra,